Adequate notice of this meeting of the Mayor and Council was sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Co-Star, our official newspapers, and notice of this meeting was posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building. Take roll call. Councilwoman Donovan? Here. Mayor Buckfusco?
Here.
Councilman Rondinero? Here. Councilman Levis?
Here.
And Councilman McKinney is absent.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing, please, for a moment of silence for our troops, their families, and first responders. And tonight, in honor of Memorial Day, we're going to read off the names of individuals who were Belmar residents who died in past wars.
Malcolm Russell Bigelow, Frank Joyce, John Ferris, James Burton, Carl Foster, Edward Becker, Joseph Horton, Francis Class, James Baraggio, Joseph McConnell, Robert Sherman, Frederick Abbott, Raymond Herbert, Edward Schneider, and Walter Larison Jr.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Workshop. We're going to discuss the, call it draft sign ordinance.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. I would just like, I think we all received this draft of the sign ordinance that we worked on with the sign ordinance committee. And I'd like to request that we go, hopefully, be able to put it on the agenda for next meeting for first reading, and then send it to the planning board for notes. Is that okay with everyone, or do we need to discuss certain things about it first?
I just have a question since we're looking at a version with track changes and there's some questions in here. Number one, it said the sign permit should be reviewed by the borough sign committee prior to final review by the administrative officer. Is the sign committee the ad hoc one, which was created for this, or part of the zoning board?
That's part of the planning board.
Planning board, excuse me. Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
I had a question about that. So I was looking at it as if I was just a person who was going to put in an application for a sign. And it wasn't clear to me what the actual steps were. Because it seems like the first step says the application shall be made to the administrative officer, zoning officer, for the issuance of a sign permit by any person wishing to erect, alter, modify, or expand any sign, except exempt signs. So if I'm applying to put up a sign, I give my application to the zoning officer. Then it says, said sign permit shall be reviewed by the borough sign committee prior to final review by the administrative officer, zoning officer. So now the zoning officer gets my permit. Now does he or she just give it to the borough sign committee?
Yes.
Without
Yes.
looking at it? Is that how we're?
Yeah, so actually it would come in and I would send it to the sign committee first. And then once I get their comments, then give it to the zoning officer and he'll review their comments and the ordinance and make the final determination.
All right, so it doesn't really, I mean, can we say something, application shall be made to the, I don't know why we keep calling it the administrative officer and then zoning officer. Can we just say zoning officer, or is that like a term of art? I don't know.
Right.
We were wondering whether it should be changed to code enforcement official.
No, it goes
Now we
through,
have three options.
it goes through zoning, not code enforcement.
Maybe you should say,
I just want to add something on the sign committee. I was trying not to get shot on this one, but the sign committee can't have any authority to approve because the way the statute is set up, you have an ordinance, it's zoning,
It goes to the zoning officer either approves or denies, and then there's an appeal. So there's another section in here where the sign committee has advice and consent authority. We can't confer to them that authority.
Okay. So what I'm thinking is maybe that first sentence, instead of saying shall be made to the administrative officer or zoning officer, maybe we could just say it has to be submitted to through the zoning office or whatever we want to call that, because the zoning officer really isn't seeing it until it comes back after it's been reviewed by the borough sign committee. So maybe we need to tweak that a little bit in terms of what's, because I think reading that, people might think that the zoning officer is actually going to look at this, before it goes to the sign committee, and it's not really, from what April said, I gather it's just a matter of they're taking in the application at the zoning office, and then she's going to give it to the sign committee, who shall review it.
And that's only if they need to review it because it's different from what we're accepting, correct? Like, right now, we've changed that we are allowing sandwich board signs, as long as they, are against the building facade or within 3 feet, that it doesn't impede traffic. We don't have to have someone come in for a sign, just if it already fits what we're requesting, correct?
Well, the current process is they review all of them
All of them.
to make sure that it is in compliance.
Okay.
And that second paragraph I had to read like 3 times, because I think it's just maybe the way it's structured, because it reads now, if the administrative officer determines that a sign requires the issuance of a sign permit, and then it says, is not a part of an application for a site plan subdivision, conditional use, or variance approval. I think that's one option. Then the next one is permitted as an accessory structure within the zone and meets the applicable sign schedule requirements, the officer shall issue a sign permit. Is that the way I'm reading it? Is that correct? I mean, so as long as it's not part of an application for a site plan, et cetera, and is already permitted as an accessory structure, then the officer shall issue the sign permit. Is that, yeah, I don't know, maybe just the way we list it, maybe they should be like options, like maybe just skip a line and put a dash or something to show that those are the steps. Because then it says the applicant may then apply for the construction permit, blah, blah, blah. Then the next paragraph says, it's the reverse. It says, if the administrative officer, which is interesting, we don't put zoning officer in parentheses in that one. I don't know why, but I guess I'm just picking.
Good, no.
Determines that the proposed sign is part of the subdivision site plan or conditional use application, or that it does not comply with the applicable regulations, sign schedule requirements, or other sign regulations, the officer shall instruct the applicant that approval of the appropriate land use board is required. So I would do the same thing there, have those 2 sentences kind of broken out. So, if it does not comply with this, or if it's part of a subdivision, then that's going to go to a land use board. And then the final one is modification of existing signs requires reapplication. I was thinking, might that want to be the first thing that we put under this? If somebody's reading it, I don't know, like I might put that as the first bullet point. Modification of existing sign required reapplication, and then you'll have the procedure for what it goes. I mean, we could discuss that. I don't know if that makes sense. Then going down to, I guess it's E. It says no sign or part of any sign except publicly owned or authorized signs shall be placed in or extend into or over any public right of way. Now, this is already in the ordinance. This is not a change, but I kind of was curious. It's like, so what's an authorized sign? We don't.
Well, maybe something like for the Belmar 5, and we have signs going over there for finishing, and then that would probably fall.
But I mean, if I'm reading that, like, how do I know if my sign is authorized? it says there's an exception for publicly owned or authorized signs. Shall be, I don't understand the reason for authorized signs. So those signs that have
Maybe
already
the
been
ones that have already
approved,
been approved is the way that I read it.
it just seems like, it's not
Sometimes,
clear, it's not clear. Yeah.
sometimes when the sign's in the right of way or overhangs the right of way, a board will send the applicant to the town and say you have to get the town's permission, and
Right.
then the town would grant a license essentially to allow that to be there.
So those would be like,
Could mean that.
those would be like previously authorized signs, or?
Well, yeah, if somebody wants to hang a sign out, like have a blade sign. And if the right of way goes right up to the door, and I don't know where in town it may be different, you know, whether, it's not always at the curb line. Okay, so, if you wanted to enter into that right of way, then technically you would need the permission of the town to do that.
Aren't the sidewalks a public right of way in front of all the, on Main Street, for example? Right, so every sign that extends over the sidewalk, basically is in conflict with this position, with this section here.
Well,
Then there's another section.
yeah,
No?
you asked about the public right of way. I don't know the answer to that directly because I know the street is, but then sometimes the sidewalk could be on somebody's private property and it's used, but there's no easement. It's more technical
Right.
stuff, but yeah, generally a sidewalk would be considered a right of way, but it may not be legally. And I'm not saying that that occurs in Belmar, but it does occur in other towns.
Because then later on, when we're talking about sign standards, and it says in paragraph 6, 2A6, every projecting sign shall be placed at least 10 feet above the public sidewalk over which it's erected, and a distance not further than 18 inches from the face of the wall. So aren't we kind of saying there that those signs are okay to put over the public right of way? And I'm just wondering why we need to say,
One says public right of way and the other says public sidewalk, so. Sidewalk is a sidewalk, though it may not be a right of way.
And they still need to be in compliance, so we would have to get that checked out.
Now, does Piano Plaza count as a sidewalk or a public right of way?
Opening up a kettle of fish or a can of worms, I don't know. Well, there's a lot to do with Piano Plaza. As you may know, do you know that? Yes, you probably do.
the other thing,
It's in trouble, okay.
the other thing I had an issue with too, I was reading the next paragraph, and it says, projecting signs shall be attached to walls with galvanized bolts at least 3/8 of an inch in diameter, and shall be fixed in the wall by means of bolts extending through the wall, right? And shall contain a proper sized metal washer or plate on the inside of the wall, and should be designed and constructed to withstand wind pressure of not less than 40 pounds, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking to myself, so that means if I own a store and I want to put a sign on outside the store, I have to drill through the wall all the way through to the inside of the store and put a bolt to hold the sign up. I don't know, it just seemed like a lot of work to do that. Yet again, I don't know, maybe that's the only acceptable way that a sign can be put to withstand the wind pressure of 40 pounds. But it just seems like it's pretty onerous to.
I would think there's probably a universal construction code that we can reference rather than having it be sort of fixed.
Right,
certainly
whatever the
didn't make
building
this one
code
up.
says you have to do, right?
Yeah.
The structural engineer is required, and things of that nature, they're very expensive.
I mean, this is already in the code, but as I was reading it, I was like, this sounds like a lot of work. Like if I just want to put a sign up that says, and I have to drill all the way through the wall. Maybe we should look at the construction code and see what, because I'm thinking what most people would do is they'll put some kind of a lag bolts or something, or something that will hold on to but maybe that's the only way we can, assure that it's gonna not blow away. But
I have a question and a request. One is, the question is, how frequently does the sign committee meet?
So we're just the sign ordinance committee.
Right, I
but
know,
you mean
for the approval
planning board.
process, yes.
That's my question. They don't meet in person. I email them the application, they review it and send me back their comments.
Great, so we don't have to worry about someone needing some type of expedited review or anything like
No.
that? Okay, good. And then my request would be that once we hammer out the exact language you want, that we have a plain language version on the website with examples, with whatever appropriate language that says that if there's any confusion, we defer to the, municipal code.
We're also, it's a great idea, we're also working currently on giving some sort of pamphlet out to all of the businesses once we get this hammered out, so that they can understand what they can do. Because things have changed, we really have changed quite a bit. It was very restrictive, and we are making it, hopefully better for the business community.
My only comment would be on, well, I have a couple comments, but on the prohibited signs, where we strike out no advertising flags, flood flags, or banners, right? So that's one of the main reasons why we do this, right?
Yeah.
But we still leave in that prohibited is pinwheels, portable signs, which seems kind of vague. Because I would think those sandwich boards are technically a portable sign, right? Anything that's essentially a portable sign, we want to strike that from it as well, since we're already sort of calling them out.
That's a good point.
Well, the banners and the flutter flags are dealt with later on.
Yeah. I was thinking we mentioned sandwich boards somewhere else, but we still say that technically a portable sign is banned. I think portable sign is a little too vague, I would strike it.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah. And then I question too on, this has been in existence for a while, but we reference political signs. And I've always wondered if we're legally even allowed to enforce that, the rules based on political signs. It seems like we'd be trampling on a lot of people's First Amendment rights.
Well, we have time, place, and manner rights, and
Yeah.
I think our ordinance, I think this, allows people to have a sign, and says you can't have multiple signs. I think that's okay.
How does it work for the, stop Verizon signs, right? Technically, those are signs we have in the yard. They're not political towards a candidate, but we don't actually reference them in this ordinance, I don't think in any way.
Well, what do we define political sign? Where is that?
We just put
under
per
10.
candidate,
Under 10
we talk about per candidate, so it is more election, like, so we have with the owner's consent, and that they have to take it down 5 days following the election, can't be in the public right away, and that it's one per candidate per lot, except for corner lots, which would be allowed to.
Well, I think you have two different issues there, and you probably would have to let the Verizon sign and the election sign stay. We can't have a rule that says you can only talk about one topic. May just open the door up to like a sign form there, but
Yeah.
Well, I think that would be another question, because we also have the paragraph on construction, landscaping, and other types of signs, which we limit to, it's permitted for the duration of the work being performed, and shall be removed within 14 days of completion of the work. So that seems okay. But the other category, which is like a catch-all, like the Verizon signs, or, it could be anything. Do we think we should put a time limit on those, or have a number limit? Because, I could be very, much involved in a lot of different things, and I could put like 50 signs on my lawn and say, support this, don't support that. Do we want, right now, the way this is written, we have no way of saying, you gotta stop doing that.
Well, and is that currently a problem though?
No, I don't think it is. It's just not addressed in the ordinance at all. So it's a blind spot in this ordinance. It's not discussed. But maybe maybe we don't wanna discuss it.
I don't think the council needs to be in the business of being a giant HOA, you know, like.
No, I agree, but
Well, we could leave that as an open item, and we'll just, like you said, I don't think it's a problem
Yeah.
at all. I have never seen it as a problem, so.
And the way that we're putting it, is that if you have multiple candidates, so let's say you've got someone for governor and you also have someone for council, you can do that. Of course, you do have a limited amount of time during that election period to have those signs up. Those must be removed 5 days following the election, where, the Verizon signs I would think and hope could stay.
Yeah, and I don't wanna get into like telling parents they could take down their kids' graduation signs and all those things first.
After like 3 years, they should take it down now, I think.
I mean, I don't have a limit on my love.
I'm just kidding, I'm sorry.
I have a limit. Yeah, I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of.
One other thing I saw, which I thought was inconsistent, the portable sandwich sign, it reads portable sandwich board signs for display on sidewalks or on the curb line directly in front of the business advertised by the sign. This is allowed, I guess, provided there is no more than one such sign per business. And then we add, it is against the building facade or within 3 feet of the building and does not impede the passage of pedestrians or create a traffic hazard. So I'm looking at like, well, so what is it? Is it on the curb line, or does it have to be next to the building, facade? Or it just seems like there's a inconsistency there.
Well, that's,
Do we want them on the curb line, or don't we want them on the curb line?
so the sign ordinance committee suggested within the 3 feet of the building, and then the planning board suggested the other one. So that's why I had a note there.
Both of them in there.
I had a note there, which one do you want to do?
I got you.
Yeah, ideally, we would like to be able to use both options. Whatever works for, because each business is different. So if you aren't able to put it right to your building, but you can use the curb line, and that isn't in the way about another sign or something else, that they'd be allowed to use that space. Once again, all of the sandwich board signs need to come inside after end of business.
I mean, so maybe, as I'm saying, maybe it should be either you put it against the building facade, right, so you're right up against the building, or you put it along the curb line. So this way, there's a free flow of traffic because if you put it within 3 feet of the building, it's gonna be like in the middle of the sidewalk. At least that's the way I see it.
I wouldn't mind seeing language that makes it clear that it has to be ADA compliant. It's one thing about pedestrians, but we want to make sure that, say, wheelchairs can get past, which might need more space than an average pedestrian.
I think we could build that in with that there must be so many feet of passageway
should not
between the,
impede the safe,
Yeah.
so it should not impede the safe flow of traffic.
Right. I mean, that's only gonna apply if they put it in the middle of the sidewalk, because you only allow
Right.
one sign, so it's like either put it against your building, and I don't think any sidewalk is that narrow. For example, on Main Street, that's gonna cause a problem.
There's some narrow spots.
Well, of course, I don't even get into that.
If you
But I
put it
agree.
on the
I
curb,
agree.
though, you might have a problem with parking.
What's that?
If you put it on the curb, the car's gonna park right next to it.
Yeah, that's true too. It's part of the main,
That's, that's why I feel like it would be good if we can offer that you can do both, depending on, making sure that it's not either impeding traffic or blocking, a road sign or parking.
We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah.
And
Exciting stuff.
come up with a reasonable, it would be nice to say, just put it in a place that's reasonable, so that people
It would be
can
nice
ask.
to say
But,
that, yeah.
then we'll
The fees are
we'll do it
tedious.
on a day by, case by case basis. But, all right, I think we still need to talk about this a little more.
So then, what do we do with this if we need to talk about this further? Because I know that the businesses certainly are looking for, some guidance, and our residents are, wanting to know, is this breaking code, or, are people gonna,
Well, the
what
issue,
to expect?
I think is mostly with the Florida flags, correct? And I mean, it's not necessarily everything that's changed in here. And I was kind of just thinking like maybe we could just address that issue, you know, as an immediate, like we're gonna allow flutter flags or we're not gonna allow them, or we're gonna allow them in certain instances. You know, we could move to change that portion of the ordinance.
Sure, the way that we are suggesting is flutter flags, are allowed provided they do not exceed 12 feet, are taken in at the close of business hours, do not obstruct pedestrian traffic, are appropriate, no profanity, and are not tattered, ripped, or faded. Restaurants, including liquor license establishments and non-liquor license establishments, should be limited to 4 banners and/or temporary signs. That's the part that we have on this. I don't know whether that's something that you want to move forward with now without revising the rest of it.
Maria, I think we need to work on that wording a little bit because the first sentence seems to say that flutter flags can only be used for purposes of advertising, grand openings, and special events or sidewalk sales. So I don't think that's really your intent. I think you intend to have flutter flags all the time.
Allowed,
Yeah, so I think they probably should be not in the first sentence, but we have to talk about that.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be hard to fix.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything in here that was glaring or extremely, you know, that we missed that would prevent us from getting on the next agenda. I don't think we need to solve every single, you know, conceivable situation with the sign. I mean, there's gonna be things that come up that we, you know, we didn't prepare for in this. But the things that, there's nothing here that's blocking me from wanting to vote on this and get it done.
Well, why don't we see if we can work on it before the next meeting, and at least, hopefully, we can get it on by then.
Oh.
That would be the goal, try
Sounds
to work up something, that we're all in agreement with, and put it on, and see how it works.
Perfect.
Okay?
I appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll work on it. Okay, the zoning board year-end report. Any
Yes.
comments on that?
Yeah, I was very interested in the recommendation about passing an ordinance to establish to prohibit an establishment from closing down business and abandoning the use on the property except for the operation of leases for telecommunication equipment on the roof. Now, they know businesses should have to remain open and stipulate terms on what open means. I don't know if we can do that, but I know there's 2 different issues that we're touching on here. One is our desire to have open businesses on Main Street, not permanently shuttered businesses. And the other is, you know, what's keeping them like that, which is the proliferation of potential telecommunication equipment. I don't think that's that large of an issue right now, but it's an interesting point made by the board, and I'd like us to consider it.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Councilwoman. There are a couple of issues I think where, you know, we see that some buildings are only in existence just because they're supporting telecommunications equipment, and they could be utilized for something else.
Right, I mean, this doesn't, the way this is noted here, and granted, we're looking at a bullet point, not an ordinance, but it wouldn't stop something from going into disrepair, staying open, but being kept open by the telecommunications equipment. I don't know if there's much we can really do about that.
What about some of the other things that they listed here to review, like allow the grassed area between the driveway strips to be considered pervious area, stumps in between paver strips for a driveway should not be included in the impervious coverage calculation.
I mean, I would like to have a conversation with the environmental commission about the pervious versus impervious points, personally.
And Jim Morris, too.
Yes, and Jim Morris.
When stones are used in other areas on the piece of property, is it considered impervious coverage, or is it?
Yes.
Pervious? It is.
Stones are not permitted except for planting beds. But if
That's
you,
interesting.
or a driveway, and then in that case, it's impervious.
Okay. So if a person has a stone driveway, that's considered impervious.
Correct.
is considered the same as a concrete driveway.
Correct.
Just seems something inconsistent in my mind there, but what do I know?
We all agree.
We agree.
There's the pervious pavers, I know we're dealing with that now that allow for, and I think we should have more exceptions for them, that seem to work a little bit better.
I guess my thought goes back to what the definition of impervious is, and I'm sure there's been, a lot of work done on that, the difference between pervious and impervious. Maybe that's something we need to discuss a little further in terms of what.
Impervious is not pervious?
Yeah, pervious is not pervious, but what is pervious?
So this suggestion actually has come up before, and our prior engineering firm reviewed it with the planning board and came up with some recommendations, and the ordinance was changed, but it wasn't changed enough. Because at that time, the engineer didn't agree that stones are pervious.
There are a lot of opinions on what is
Yeah.
pervious and what is not impervious.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with the base underneath, whether it's sand or whether it's,
Well, then I could see there being, guidance in that. But obviously, if you're putting stones on top of concrete, it's not impervious.
It's
I
much.
mean, it's not pervious, you're gonna hit the concrete and the water's just gonna stay there. But, yeah, I agree, it depends on what's under the stones, that's,
Well, you have to look at that, right? Some towns have pools, and they say they're pervious because they catch the water. And other towns say they're impervious because they hold water. And when it comes down to this question, what is impervious or pervious is what the town says is impervious or pervious. There's one town, short town, that says pavers, in-kind pavers, are pervious. Now, I don't think we wanna go that far, but, this is the question. You don't have to look for the answer someplace and say, oh, that's impervious because it's been found to be impervious. It is what you say it is.
my suggestion is we take a look at this a little further, and maybe bring it up at another meeting.
Sounds
Look
great.
at some of these
Each of these
individual things.
recommendations is gonna have an individual ordinance
Yeah.
attached to it. One that really struck me off the top of the list was the request to have sump pumps connected to the storm sewer. Now, I was under the impression we already had an ordinance for that for new construction. I thought that was done several years ago.
Well, no, this is a certain scenario where there's some streets that have a pipe that runs along the curb line, and the board, or some of the board members felt that if the street has that pipe, it should be mandatory that the homeowner connect to it. But speaking with DPW, it's not that many streets that actually have it. I'm waiting to get the list, but there's not that many, so. I don't know if it'll be necessary.
Thanks.
All right, well, let's just schedule this for another meeting. In the meantime, we'll look at some of these individual requests here, and hopefully we can come up with some answers for the zoning board.
Can I just ask one more question? It references a proposed law regarding back houses on the state level. What is that?
It's the third to last.
Yeah, I mean, that is something the state was going to mandate, but I don't know that that has happened.
But what is it that they're mandating?
They wanted to say that you can, and I'm paraphrasing very generally, to encourage of affordable housing, more affordable housing in the community,
Oh,
that
okay.
people could use their back houses and count them as affordable housing.
And they would have to be
Do certain
certified.
things,
and-
yes.
I thought that we had worked that into what we were doing, did we not?
I don't think we did, not at this point.
Okay.
There was, the law that was circulating also said that if you wanted to build a back house, it wasn't a non-conforming use, it would be a permitted use. And therefore not needing the use variance from the zoning board. the zoning officer could just approve it. That was one aspect of the law.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Which is kind of contrary to, I think, the general feeling of the town over the years was to eliminate some of the back houses as rentals. And I think this is a twist now to try to, encourage that for affordable housing purposes. So we'll see what happens with that legislation. Anything else? Okay. Anything else for our workshop? Okay. Let's move on. Petitions.
I did not receive any petitions.
Okay, approval of minutes.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 13th meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Councilman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondinero?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Reports of council. Councilwoman Donovan.
Hi, everyone. I read a list of names earlier this meeting, and I wanted to say a special thank you to William Duffy. He posts periodically a short history of all of the men whose names we read on our Facebook post, and I'll note what I said this to the mayor, which is that when I first was asked to run, and I said I will, just never joined Facebook, that this was perhaps the only noble use of social media. I know that he is doing his best to keep these memories alive for their sake and for their families, and so I wanted to say thank you.
Continuing.
Want to congratulate the chief and our police department on a successful Unity tour. The Environmental Commission, we are continuing the work on Patchwork for Wildlife, which is recognizing yards using sustainable practices. We are very excited to announce we received a Sustainable Jersey grant for electric landscaping equipment for DPW. That was a lot of work and a long time coming. We are also completing the paperwork for an energy audit of the town buildings, and I was asked to give a special thank you to our clerk, April, for that. And we also met finally with the Army Corps of Engineers to discuss our big grant. This will take about a year of research and reporting and will result eventually in not just recommendations, but multiple different plans with alternatives so that the borough can make the best decision going forward for Silver Lake that aligns with what our best uses as a town and our financial projections. So we're very excited to start that process. Thank you.
Council President Rondinero.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everyone involved in the Seafood Festival this year, especially John Walsh, who helped us organize it once again, all the vendors, musicians, the volunteers, employees, DPW or police, fire, EMS, and all of the businesses that participated. The weather was beautiful for our Memorial Day service yesterday, which was well attended and led by Colonel Bagley and members of the VFW. With graduation right around the corner, I want to congratulate all our Belmar graduates and their families. We have about 25 graduating seniors who requested Main Street banners that will soon be displayed on Main Street the first week of June. We've also scheduled our 3rd annual Pride flag raising ceremony, which will be held once again right in the front of the courtroom outside on June 3rd at 4 p.m. We'll have a speaker from Garden State Equality, several Belmar residents in the LGBTQ+ community, and musical performance by Belmar's Danny White. I have the pleasure of meeting our newest staff member today, Jenna Van Nest, who will be taking over events and social media and is already hard at work. June will be a busy month at the library. The library is kicking off the summer with a live concert at the front lawn featuring Pat Rye Band. Thursday, June 5th at 6 p.m. Hot dogs and pizza will be served, free and open to the public. The next author time will be Wednesday, June 11th at 6 p.m. at the library, featuring author Anthony Morrow and his book Caring for Carol by Caring for Me, a conversation on coping, compassion, and inner strength when caregiving for loved ones. Then Beach Music Studios Kids Rock Band will perform live on the library front lawn on Saturday, June 14th at 12 noon. That is free and open to the public. And registration for the library's summer reading program for kids in K through 8 is now open. Parents can register their kids online at the library's website, with the program kickoff party being a free concert for kids featuring Mr. Ray on Saturday, June 21st at 11 a.m., also free and open to all the kids. And finally, the library will host its next Juneteenth celebration concert featuring the John Luckinbill Orchestra and spoken word poetry artist James C. Ellerby on Thursday, June 19th at 6 p.m. at the Taylor Pavilion. That is free and open to the public. E-tickets are required and available at the library website, but please feel free to call the library directly if you are interested, and they will register you if the online system is a little bit overwhelming. The Belmar Housing Authority is working on getting their environmental study for their engineers for the facade project, which is the final step in receiving the appropriations from HUD. Their next meeting is June 2nd at 5:15, and all are welcome to attend. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Lettis?
Thank you, Mayor. We had our Harbor Commission meeting last Tuesday. A couple things came up. The fuel dock is operational as of Friday. We have gasoline. Kudos to Kevin and the whole team for keeping on everybody else down the wire right before Memorial Day weekend. And there's a lot of boats out there, so thank God we can provide some gasoline. One of the resolutions you'll see on the agenda tonight is to actually charge basically a capital improvement surplus on top of the fuel docks. That's basically gas sales at the fuel dock, basically to recover some of those costs associated with building the fuel dock. So Harbor Commission voted to approve that resolution, and that's why we see it on the agenda tonight. Another thing that came up was parking in the vicinity of the Belmar Arts Council, specifically a lot of the commercial vehicles that are parked there overnight. So I'll be meeting with Chief Scott to sort of discuss what some of the possibilities we have there, whether it's drafting an ordinance or just finding a better way we can use that parking more efficiently, so that the marina attendance is better utilized. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I have a few things. On July 14th, the Belmar First Aid Squad is going to have a ceremony commemorating the plaque and actually the stone with the plaque that used to be on the corner of 9th Avenue in front of the buildings for the First Aid Squad, and it has been moved over to the Monument Row between 12th and 13th. So if you've been in that area, you've probably seen it. It's been up for a while, and so they're going to have a little ceremony on the 14th, starting at like 9 o'clock in the morning, June 14th. Yes. That's what I said, May.
You said July.
July.
You're ahead of the game.
I'm ahead. That was June. So if you can make it, that's fine. Two things. One about the parking that you just mentioned. I think we need to speak about perhaps doing a bigger parking study for the borough in terms of utilization. You know, are we using our current parking efficiently? You know, there are limitations on parking on certain streets. The whole issue of where commercial vehicles should park. So I mean, I think that in addition to what you were saying in the meantime, I think that's part of a bigger issue to see if we can maximize our parking that we already have and utilize it to help the stores and the residents in the area. So I'm going to talk with Kevin about that and we'll see what we can come up with, and I'll keep you posted. And the last thing is, you know, I walk my dog around the neighborhood and I still see people throwing garbage in the street. You know, the garbage being like limbs and branches and all kinds of yard waste, and they put it right into the curb. And it's like, you know, it interferes. If it rains a lot, all that stuff's going to get washed away. Or if the street cleaner comes by, I don't know if it'll go through that or it goes around it, but it's just not supposed to be. You know, and I see it at the beginning of the month, because usually the beginning of the month, the DPW will go around and will pick up branches and any kind of debris that's there, but I see it, you know, starting right in the middle of the month, and so that stuff is there for like weeks. So, you know, just a reminder to not do that. Keep it on your curb if you need to until the first week comes, but just asking people to be more aware of that. The curb is not the trash bin for our yard waste, so I would appreciate that. And other than that, I think we have you want to do the proclamation now?
Sure.
We have a proclamation for the Pride Month celebration. I will be reading this again on, what was it, the 3rd?
The 3rd, yes.
Okay.
The proclamation is recognizing June 2025 as Pride Month. Whereas the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Belmar recognizes and proclaims the month of June 2025 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgendered, and Queer Plus Pride Month throughout the borough, and whereas the Borough of Belmar joins the County of Monmouth to observe Pride Month with a pride flag raising ceremony to honor the history of the LGBTQ plus liberation movement and to support the rights of all citizens to experience equality and freedom from discrimination. And whereas the rainbow flag is widely recognized as a symbol of pride, inclusion, and support for social movements that advocate for the LGBTQ plus people in society. And whereas all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, LGBTQ plus individuals have had immeasurable impact to the cultural, civic, and economic successes of our country. And whereas the Borough of Belmar is committed to support visibility, dignity, and equality for LGBTQ plus people in our diverse community. While society at large increasingly supports the LGBTQ plus equality, it is essential to acknowledge that the need for education and awareness remains vital to end discrimination and prejudice. And whereas this nation was founded on the principle that every individual has infinite dignity and worth, and the Mayor and Council call upon the people of Belmar to embrace this principle and work to eliminate prejudice everywhere it exists. And whereas Celebration Pride Month influences awareness and provides support and advocacy for Monmouth County's LGBTQ plus community, and it is an opportunity to take action and engage in dialogue to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, and advance equal rights. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Mayor and the Council of the Borough of Belmar hereby proclaims the month of June 2025 as Pride Month in support of the LGBTQ plus community. Be it further resolved that the rainbow flag will be raised during the month of June, recognizing all of the LGBTQ plus residents whose influential and lasting contributions to our neighborhoods make the Borough of Belmar a vibrant community in which to live, work, and visit.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to the public session for the resolutions.
If anyone has a comment or question about a resolution, please step forward, state your name and address.
I just want to point out that there are, we're going from resolution 95 to 111. The first, up to resolution 108 is on the consent agenda, and resolutions 109, 110, and 111 will have separate votes, but the public session for all of the resolutions, including the ones that I just mentioned, is now. Right? So there will be no separate public session for the ones that we're going to be taking individual votes on. Okay, I'm sorry, you can continue.
Anita Buckley, First Avenue. The one, I think, Mark, you might have explained it, but the one about the marina, the first one, the 225-100, to change the order and degree, what's that about?
You're talking about the supplemental agreement for the project?
Yes.
Additional,
Yes.
Yeah, there was additional work that had to be done. I don't know exactly what it was. I don't know, Kevin, if you recall what work that was. We're trying to get as much work done while we have the equipment here. So, I
So
think
are
there
we
was something.
are we increasing the cost of it?
For additional work, we have to pay additional money.
Okay, so that would be in the resolution, how
Yeah,
much we have to
one of them was
increase?
to add an additional filing at the T of H.
Right, right.
Because when they were trying to replace when they were trying to replace the T of H dock by the barges there, they needed two pilings, one on each end to secure it, because when they started looking at it, it was in a lot better shape than they thought, but by securing, putting pilings at both ends, really tightened it up, so one was an additional piling that had to be added, and then the rest was fuel dock stuff.
But the resolution that you're referring to is 104, and that's for the fuel rates of the marina.
No, I think she was referring to.
No, I was talking to about 100.
Yeah, 100.
I just want to know if we added more cost to
Okay.
the project.
No, the resolution I was referring to was for the fuel rates.
Okay. The other one is, I think it's 108. It's for La Dolce Vita, and it says the liquor license, and then with broad package privilege, does that mean people can buy liquor there? And like, is that like packaged goods, or am I wrong? 108, 225, 108?
Some liquor licenses are broad C licenses, and they do have that package privilege, thanks. We don't change those. They are historical, and we don't have the ability to change the nature of that license. But, yeah, I'm assuming you're correct, but I didn't know there was broad C on that, but yeah, that's what that would mean.
Yeah, it says broad package privilege license. So,
Yeah.
so that means people can go into La Dolce Vita and buy liquor and leave, like a liquor store.
Well, there are requirements, there are regulations. You may have seen them, like the Spirits 76 bars around here. I think there's a little teeny bar, and then they sell all the liquor on the wall. All the liquor has to be on a wall displayed. You can't have aisles and things like a buy right or something like that.
Do you know if this has been going on? Because I mean, I live right there, and I just never heard of this.
I don't know if they have been selling anything, but they're not set up for it. Because,
Yeah,
you know, like,
No, I understand. I've been in
Right.
places where you can buy liquor, and this is not, La Dolce Vita is not it.
do
So I just wanted to know, is this new? Is this something they're
no,
on?
it's not
Is
new,
this
it's
something
actually
on?
old. They actually, all C licenses now do not have that. That's an old license.
So
So
most
they're-
likely they will do it.
I
Or
don't,
we're
I
not gonna say
haven't
that
been
either.
there a lot, but
We're
I
not
don't.
gonna say that either. I just wanna like, is it a liquor store now too,
No,
on top of a
they don't-
restaurant and everything else?
Yeah, like Captain Kern's had a broad C.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they
yeah.
had the bar, and then
Uh-huh.
you walk through the back door, and then they had the liquor there. It was all on the wall. So there are other requirements. They're not operating that way,
No.
from my
no.
understanding of their operation.
But we just have to leave this in there and,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh.
Eugene Kramer, Fourth Avenue. Resolution 2025-96, establishing paid parking areas. I guess I'm going to say I'm a little bit disappointed. There was published in the Co-Star, there was a summary of utilities in town. And the revenue for the parking utility, I think a year ago was $137,000. And the revenue proposed in the new budget, I believe, is $133,000. It was a budget document published on May 1st. I'll be candid with you, I'm very disappointed in that. The number being so low. I mean, we have 1.3 miles of beachfront, and of course, the marina and River Avenue. That number seems to be extremely low, and it said that there were 5 employees with that parking utility. Is there a limit on the number of what they used to call white paper parking permits, especially down at the beachfront, where people are given authorization to park and not have to pay?
To answer your question, I think, and again, you know, our chief financial officer isn't here, but what's in the budget is not necessarily what was collected from the paid parking. Okay, that is just a reflection of what is being budgeted for the parking authority. But we have, and I thought it was on the internet, but we have, every week we get a listing of the revenue that's being taken in from the paid parking. And you have to remember that obviously the paid parking during beach hours on the east side of Main Street, that goes to the beach fund. Okay, that does not go into the borough's revenue stream. Anything around the lake does, anything from, you know, around here or in the marina, all that stuff comes into the borough. And the parking along the boardwalk after hours, when the beach is closed, that also comes into the borough. So the money that you're seeing in the budget is not a reflection of how much money is being taken in.
Okay, just have.
That's it, yeah. I'll see if we can get that. I mentioned that at another meeting one time, and I don't think we got it up there, but we do have a report that shows us, you know, with all the different parking sections that we have, how much revenue is being taken in week by week by week.
Okay, thank you for,
Okay.
thank you for explaining that. Also, other parking lots in the town. I don't, in the listing here, I don't see the 23 parking spaces that are on 10th Avenue underneath the plaza building. That was a condition of approval that those 23, there used to be a surface parking lot right by the railroad there that they had used for years. But now, as a condition of the approval of the plaza, there are 23 spaces in the ground level parking area that perhaps that should be added as a pay-by-plate parking area to generate additional revenue for the town.
Well, we can definitely consider that. I mean, that might be another aspect of our parking study that we do, to see if there, in addition to that, there may be a few other areas where paid parking could be included, at least for the summer months. So we'll take that into account.
And thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Boy, this is very highly directional microphone, unlike what you're using there. I was going to say, I was very happy to see that flashing sign before the Seafood Festival. I was very happy to see that that the borough had implemented paid parking, at least down by that area there. Unfortunately, the Seafood Festival had no handicap parking. Moving on here to other. Talking about Americans with Disability Act, I drove past TJ's the other day.
And if you don't mind, if it's just a general comment you want to make, and you keep it to the end of the meeting. These are comments just on the resolutions that we have now.
Okay.
Okay?
2025-105. This is the liquor license for DJs. There is no, not in compliance with the Americans with Disability Act. There is no handicap parking there, except perhaps when they come out of there, they're handicapped. The 2025-108, this is for La Dolce Vita. Likewise, they have a parking lot there, and there is no handicap parking. Okay, this is Mayor 2025-109. That's regarding redevelopment. is the public going to be, that's being separated out of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but this is the time to comment. There will not be a separate comment section for that.
Fine.
Okay.
Resolution 2025-109. If you would take that out. Actually, this is in the forward. All the whereases. And if you would go down to whereas number 4. Excuse me, I think this is a typo here. It says, gives a little bit of history here, and says, other properties and area in need a redevelopment. I think you need the word of, okay?
Yep, that should be off.
Excuse me, paragraph, whereas number 5, it goes on here, the expanded seaport redevelopment area, and together with the original seaport redevelopment
Area should be.
Area, it's R.
area, instead of RD. Okay, please correct that. I wanted to mention that there's, and perhaps it's not a general comment. However, these particular lots are part of the expanded seaport redevelopment area. They are non-condemnation. A big difference between, in other words, the expanded redevelopment area was targeted towards specific properties. And the rest of the redevelopment area that was established before the expanded redevelopment area, there's still the borough still has condemnation powers there. In fact, I believe condemnation is easier within a redevelopment area. I'm mentioning that because the public had mentioned a compelling need for parking. And the borough, in order to rectify that developing problem, would be nobody's going to sell their property if they can develop it. I think that the council should give some thought to, in order to solve the coming parking problem, to use condemnation.
If I can just comment with that, though, the thing about condemnation is we still have to pay for it. So we don't get it for free.
Absolutely.
So that's a big issue. And I don't think we have any plans at this time to condemn any properties, but as you said, it's certainly something that's one of the options that's out there.
Yeah, excuse me, perhaps the borough, perhaps, is this working?
Yeah, it's working.
Perhaps the borough should identify those properties where it does have condemnation power. And I think you will actually find, if you take a close look, that a lot of, that may very well be property that the borough had given away for $1. Okay, whereas number 10. Develop the property with a mixed use development. The last CAFRA application that I saw for this property, they're asking for a major modification, and they're asking only for residential use. I guess what would have to be checked here is to see whether a purely residential development is permitted in the redevelopment area. Okay, that's it for this particular.
Okay.
I do have a comment.
Or to resolution 2025-110. Second whereas, after New Jersey Supreme Court decision in RE adoption, I believe that's a typo also.
We can take that out.
Okay.
We don't want an extra in there. Just,
Well, I think it's in, the title of the case is in re-adoption of, I would think.
So it should be in.
I think, I'm not an English expert, but I guess it could go either way. Because if it was called Smith versus Jones, you could say New Jersey Supreme Court decision, Smith versus Jones. You wouldn't have to say in Smith versus Jones.
Gotcha.
It's, you know, just
Okay.
stylistic. Go ahead, Steve.
Yes, Mayor, I think you're going to have to explain this last comment. At the end of the resolution, it says, Mayor Buckafusco offered the above resolution and moved its adoption, seconded by Councilwoman Kinney, and adopted by the following vote.
I don't think we did this one already. That's going to have to be taken out. That's probably referring to a previous one that we did, maybe at the last meeting. We'll take that out.
So that's incorrect?
Yes, that
That's
gets updated after they vote tonight.
And obviously, Councilwoman Kinney won't be,
I was going to say,
won't be
that's been
second.
modified, doesn't it?
We'll correct that.
Okay. That's all I comment.
All right, thank you. Would anyone else like to make a comment? Okay,
Can I have a motion to close the public session?
make the motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the resolutions as listed on the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondonero?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
And next is Resolution 2025-109, a resolution of the Borough of Belmar designating a redeveloper for the property identified as Block 87, Lots 1, 2, and 3 on the tax map of the borough within the Seaport redevelopment area and authorizing the execution of a redevelopment agreement. Do I have a motion to offer this resolution?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Excuse me, April, if I could just note for the record, those comments that Mr. Creamer made should be noted, and we'll send a revised resolution. So all of them, as noted on the record, will be incorporated and revised in a resolution that we'll send over.
Can I ask a question, actually? I'm sorry, I noticed this while Mr. Creamer was speaking about 110. There's a note that says that if any article, section, blah, 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 this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional or invalid, such decision shall not affect the remaining portions of this ordinance, and they shall remain.
Which resolution is that? Is that the, I don't have the numbers, is that the redeveloper?
No,
This is Fran McManaman, Scotland and Down, and we service redevelopment.
You know, I'm gonna retract my question, and upon rereading it, I answered my own question, so never mind.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondonero?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Okay, next is Resolution 2025-110, a resolution endorsing the Borough of Belmar's housing element and fair share plan. Do we have a motion to offer this resolution?
Motion?
Second.
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondonero?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
And last one is Resolution 2025-111, a resolution authorizing the issuance of a club license to the Order of Friendly Sons of Shillelagh for a period ending June 30th, 2026. Do we have a motion to offer this resolution?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rondenaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
I'm recusing myself.
Okay. Next, we have ordinances. First one is ordinance 2025-10, an ordinance amending and supplementing the Borough Code to add section 40-7.34 entitled Affordable Housing Mandatory Set-Aside Requirement. Do we have a motion to offer for first reading and introduction?
I'll make the motion. Are we amending that?
Excuse me, April, I do have a couple amendments to this ordinance as well. So in section 1A, removing from the second line that reads, single-family attached residential development, removing that is approvable and developable as defined at NJAC 5:93-1.3. So I'll make that revision and send you the revised version of the ordinance tomorrow.
Can you repeat that?
What was that? What section was that? That's being amended? I'm sorry, I
Oh, no
didn't,
problem.
I didn't catch it. You
Sure,
were-
so, section 1A,
Right, got it.
and then removing in the second line, that is approvable and developable as defined at NJAC 5:93-1.3. Those are the former COA regulations.
Oh, okay.
I also will have an amendment to the set-aside ordinance, but I'll come back for that.
Okay, I guess we're up to comments.
Oh, no, this is, no, I just need a second.
What's that?
I just need,
First reading.
Second.
yeah.
No comments. Sorry.
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondenaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Next is ordinance 2025-11, an ordinance amending chapter 40, article 5, zoning districts of the revised general ordinances, creating new overlay zoning district. We have a motion to offer for first reading and introduction.
We have an amendment?
This is the one, yes. So in section B, where it says permitted principal uses, mixed use A, the third line down where it reads, any mixed-use development requires a mandatory 20% set-aside ordinance, set-aside for affordable housing. Adding any mixed-use development, this is the language that's going to be added, with 5 or more dwelling units, requires a mandatory set-aside for affordable housing. So we'll make that amendment and send that to you as well.
Okay, do we have a motion to offer this ordinance as amended?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondenaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Next is ordinance 2025-12, an ordinance amending chapter 40, article 5, zoning districts of the revised general ordinances, creating an affordable housing zoning district. We have a motion to offer for first reading and introduction.
Motion?
Second?
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondenaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
And last one, ordinance 2025-13, an ordinance approving the application for a long-term tax exemption and authorizing the execution of a financial agreement. We have a motion to offer for first reading and introduction.
Motion?
Second.
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondenaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're on to the public session. Please remember to state your name and address before speaking.
And I'm going to ask people to limit their comments to 5 minutes, please.
Oh, come on.
You're wasting time.
Speaking of waste. Claire Hanger, 18th and B. Couple things on workshops, okay? This was our third workshop for the, I'm gonna say the flutter flags, okay? Which the flutter flags turned into revising the sign pole ordinance thing, which the committee was kind of there to more so look towards the flutter flags, not to reinvent the world that they didn't invent to begin with, okay? So Maria, thank you very much for everything that you have done and everybody that has been at the meetings to basically sit here and say, let's review it some more, okay? This stuff is available for people to see. Just like we have stuff available, we can put questions before you, before we get to the meeting. Maybe this stuff can be reviewed and come back to a sign committee meeting, or something like that. I know you can't all meet together, but, just to save some time, basically, okay? And as far as the zone, well, still on sign, who is the zoning officer that it keeps referring to in the sign committee?
Ted Bianchi.
So it's the zoning officer, Ted Bianchi, is gonna be doing that, okay. So once Ted approves this or does that or whatever, then who's gonna be looking to see that it's done properly? Is that code enforcement then, at that point? Because we didn't mention code enforcement, so that'll maybe be another item for the next meeting that we have or something. Because code enforcement's gotta get in there somewhere. It's not just zoning. Because planning comes up with it, but zoning's approving it. Which I find interesting, okay?
Well, it's in the code, so they enforce what's in the code.
Okay,
It's in its simplest form,
okay,
but we'll work on that.
all right, and then
Clear.
with the zoning, the list of recommendations came out on April 15th. We're already almost into our 6th month, okay? We're still waiting for people to realize that water can get through grass when they have the stones or the pavement or whatever in the driveways. So maybe like you said with the signs, you're gonna look at the little piece of it and get something done. Maybe we can get something done with the other pieces also, okay? Not everything, but, you know, it's people are coming before spending a lot of money trying to get 3 more inches over this side so that they're not needing a bigger variance or this or that or the other thing. And that grass is grass, and it's in between. So let's bring that back to, I guess, the planning board that has to determine that, so that the zoning board can keep moving forward, so that residents want to live here. And last but not least, thank you very much for eliminating the kindergarten toilets in the ladies' room, and I'm hoping the men's room too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments?
There is.
Gene Kramer, Fourth Avenue. I just have a question. Are we fluoridating our water here in town now? We're certainly putting a lot of chlorine in it, but I'm just curious about the fluoride.
I'm not really prepared to answer that. I don't know, to be honest with you. We have to look into it, get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Thanks.
Thank you. Tony Almeida, 419 10th Ave, Belmar. Good afternoon. I'm the vice chair of the zoning board, and I enjoy the company of my comrades, some of which were here today. I'm not here to bore you with these details, but as Claire said, there are some of these modifications that have been on this list for 2 or 3 years. They should be addressed because they would be in the best interest of the municipality and the end user specifically, to dictate what Claire said. If you can envision a lot of these new construction homes that are being built, they have park strips going up the driveway, right? In between the let's get this correct, permeable pavers, which we've identified as a municipality, anything considered in between those, grass or stone, is considered 100% lot coverage. Why incur the cost to do a strip of permeable pavers if you get a 50% credit if you just did it straight across? Makes no sense. So there's some other nuances in our zoning that would benefit definitely the municipality, but also the end user. I volunteer my time to meet with you individually if necessary, or we can maybe do at the end of one of our meetings an executive session, or maybe a meeting here, an executive session. We're all for that. I did not have an opportunity to review these in their entirety, and I apologize, but specifically ordinance 2025-11, Borough of Belmar, County of Monmouth, ordinance amending chapter 40, article V, zoning districts of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Belmar, creating a new overlay zoning district. I took the opportunity to read here this evening. I just wanted some clarification, if we know, is this is Main Street, in what sections, in what blocks? Is there an attached map or anything that's gonna identify this area?
Yeah, and just so you know, this will be, discussed even further at the next meeting. At the second reading, members of the public will be able to get up and make comments on each of these ordinances.
Right.
But I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, our attorneys, it's Main Street, going, what's that, west of Main Street to the tracks, and east of Main Street for what? I don't know the designation now.
Block or two?
I guess into the residential area.
A lot or two.
Where
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
lot ends.
Right.
Okay, so it's west of Main
And some east.
and some east.
Yeah.
It just, taking a quick look at my phone and looking at the tax maps, there are not many at all 50-foot wide by 125-foot lots in depth. So, just noted, that's highly unlikely, there's not a lot of those. And then I couldn't help but notice here, why are we dictating that all affordable housing units must and shall be 2 or 3 bedroom units?
Because those are UHAC requirements, that's what, those are what qualify as,
So-
satisfying the obligation.
Okay, so if a developer comes and he wants to put 5 units on a conforming lot, and they're all 1 bedroom, in order for him to meet his affordable housing mandate, he has to create a 2 or 3 bedroom unit?
Correct, so they'll have to be compliant with UHAC requirements, yes,
No matter what,
no matter what.
no matter
Yes.
what. And do we think 5 is too low of a number? I mean, if you can picture a building and, look, if you have a building where there's 5 units in it, so you're saying floors 3 and 2 are gonna have 1 bedroom units, but then you're gonna, the whole first floor, if you will, above parking, or maybe not, that's not included in this, would have to encompass the entire floor to meet 1 affordable housing unit.
The 5-unit minimum is the statewide, generally
matter
what's
what.
accepted statewide.
Got you, so
Yes.
that implies. So then this 2 or 3 bedroom unit verbiage should then also be passed on the ordinance 2010 and 2012, then, right?
2010, we did incorporate it in,
Or it's, ma'am, I don't need clarification, it's just.
yeah, it will be consistent throughout, and again, there'll be public comment, for when there's the final adoption, but yes, it will be a consistent, below 5 units, there's no affordable housing set aside mandatory requirement, and above 5 units, it will be consistent throughout all the ordinances.
Okay, and so just for matter of record, I would think then, if we had a 50 by 125 foot lot, that the developer would consider putting a 5 units, he'd be better off doing 4 units at 2 bedrooms and not have to meet his mandatory obligation for affordable housing?
That would be a determination that a redeveloper would make.
They're gonna go that route, so. All right, no other comments at this time. Thank you for your efforts. Seafood Festival was awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Oh, one more, and I'm sorry, and hopefully I didn't extend to 5 minutes. Does anybody know where the speed check signs came from? Specifically, I think there's one on 10th down on B, and there might be one on 12th down on B. As you're driving, the digital shows your
Yeah.
speed.
There's one on Fifth also.
Yeah, yes, Mayor. Where did they come from? They're
Bought
amazing.
them. Cheap. We bought them.
How much do they cost, Chief?
They are,
Ballpark.
well, when we ballpark, I believe they were, we got a deal, it was 3 for $9,000, so they're anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000.
So they're expensive, and then there's a labor cost for the municipality and the Department of Public Works to put those
But we
on.
also have 3 portable ones that we can move around that are on a schedule to go throughout the town.
Mhm.
And then we also have 2 on trailers. So those 5 get moved around town. The ones that are on poles, we can't, they're stationary. So we
And
just
Chief,
do
if
it.
you don't mind, how did you come up with the streets and locations on where they would be put?
Just, there's requirements and restrictions on where you can put them. Like they have to be so far from an intersection, they have to be so far from driveways. So it was kind of like we had to find areas that there was nothing on either side to put them there. Obviously 16th Avenue, 10th Avenue, 8th Avenue are streets that we receive a lot of speeding complaints on. So that's why we put, yeah, that's why we put them there. We didn't purchase any last year, but we may be purchasing some more this year.
I think they're great. If they're compliant or not, my recommendation, what do I know, I'm not a traffic study guy or I am a motorist. What I have noticed is that, I live on 10th Avenue, we also own a house on 8th, okay? What I have noticed is that if these signs could be on the blocks E or D, closer to Main, it will set the tone for the traveler upon entering into the neighborhoods. Where my intersection, although there's been a significant improvement by the stop sign verbiage that's gone out, that, I mean, it's a blessing. It was one of the best things the municipality's ever done. You know, I could see from my porch, the tail end of the car go up because they saw the speed sign. So it's just a recommendation. If we had those, they're fantastic. I think everybody in our town loves them. And if we can move them closer to Main to set the tone specifically in a school district, that might help the end user say, wait a minute, if it's 25 here, I know I gotta go 25 to the beach. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you. Anyone else? Last call?
Can I have a motion to close the public session and adjourn the meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So will you guys do some